Hi, and welcome into this Telstra Virtual Event. I'm Justin Cleveland, and today we're talking about how to employ tablets in your office. Look, they're ubiquitous in society right now. You can't go on a train or a plane without seeing them. I take it on when I go to the gym, pop my TV shows on the iPad, and I'll go for a run. Our kids know how to use them better than we do. But frankly, in terms of business perspective, there's still a lot of uncharted territory. So today we're going to dive into all of this and give you some examples and also talk in depth about the Microsoft Surface Pro 3. But before we get to all of that, I want to tell you some of the things you can do on the Telstra Virtual Events platform. First of all, feel free to resize the boxes, move them around to fit your screen however you'd like. Also, you can download a copy of today's presentation. So don't worry, there's a lot of information we're going to throw at you. You can download that down to the Resources tab on the bottom of your screen. And also, there's a Q&A box up on your screen. Please submit your questions early and often. That'll be guiding a lot of what we talk about today. So let's actually get into our topic today and talk a little bit about tablets. First of all, joining me here at Studio T in the Customer Insight Center in Sydney. On my right is Brent Southey. He is the General Manager of Enterprise Collaboration here at Telstra. Welcome in, Brent.
Thank you, Justin. Good afternoon.
Yeah, and you get all of the toys and, in fact, walked in here with your own Microsoft Surface, and we're a little bit jealous.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. I think I got the best gadget job in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And next to him is Tina Flammer. She is the product lead for the Microsoft Surface. And thank you for joining us and talking about the product today.
Great to be here.
And joining us by phone from Melbourne is Ian Walker. He's the Director of Conservation for Conservation Volunteers. Thank you, Ian.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Justin.
One of the cool things that Ian has done is actually employ tablets with his staff in the field. We've got some amazing pictures that we'll show you coming up in just a couple of minutes, and also talk about his journey to use tablets out there in the field. So let's go ahead and jump right into it by first of all asking you a question in the audience, which is, what is your familiarity with tablets? Do you use them at home? Do you use them in the office? Do you use them both at home and in the office? Or do you not use tablets at all? And this will help us get a sense of just how comfortable you are with tablets and how deep we're going to go. Brent, you have been dealing a lot with tablet usage in the office, and particularly here in Telstra. Are you seeing it pick up?
Yes, absolutely. Over the last 12 months, we've had a huge focus on bringing in mobile devices in general into Telstra. People are increasingly time poor, wanting to actually access information, access people, and actually do their jobs wherever they're working. Coffee shops, cafes, at home, on the train, in the taxi. So we've had a huge amount of devices starting to be used, and pretty much a third of 17,000 devices that we've connected outside of people's traditional laptops in the work environment are tablets.
Yeah. So we've got results here, and 50% say they do use a tablet at home. About 42.5% say they do yes at work and at home. And 7% say no, they don't use a tablet at all, which is actually good for us because we're going to talk about the work implications here. And it's good to know that you use it within the home, so you've got at least a baseline. Look, this is far beyond your Flappy Bird and just your tappy app games. There's a lot more that you can do now, and I think there's a mindset shift that's happening for tablets. Part of the reason for that is technology. What has happened recently with technology and tablets to help make it better for the office?
Well, I think one of the big things is the rate of devices that are connected with SIM cards and always on effectively has massively increased. We've seen it go from the small devices and iPhone and Android really starting to take over in a huge part of the marketplace, to all of a sudden we got small phones, large phones, small tablets, large tablets, and now we got these great Windows devices coming in as well that are starting to play in the midst of phones and tablets and really giving us options to not be an "and" device, but also potentially be the device that I use for my primary work purposes. And in addition to that, we've got millions and millions of great apps and software services that people across the globe are building that really enable small businesses, medium businesses, and large businesses to actually do really critical functions that are quite lightweight and easy to use and always on.
I think that's the really important point, is the app aspect of it. It's a chip without the dip. What is the point of a piece of technology if you can't do anything with it? And I think developers now are thinking mobile first.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're going to actually dive into a little bit later some of these specific apps. Is there any one that you would point to as being, if not life-changing, at least an essential in business?
I think for me, my personal experience the last 12 months, we've deployed Box as one of our core collaboration capabilities, and we're also deploying Office 365. But that ability to have my documents and the information that we're creating, reviewing, and publishing out to partners, stakeholders, customers, in my hands anywhere, and also always backed up. it's making it cheaper for IT to maintain, and it's really enabling our workforce to work a lot more productively wherever they are.
There's one of the words you use there I think is a critical one for me when thinking about business application, and that's cheaper. There is a technology cost, both upfront and ongoing with these sorts of technologies. What about cost savings? What kind of cost savings can tablets bring to the business when, because we're going to have to make this argument down the road at some point. How do we justify tablet existence?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these, what you generally refer to as soft benefits around productivity gains, and some of that's quite hard to measure. It's just things are easier. I've got access to it. I can take the time when I need to take the time. But on a more pragmatic basis, we're doing a lot of things around digital signage, reducing the amount of printed paper, being able to sign on the glass of your actual tablet device wherever you are, automating processes and approvals. So anything that you're doing as a business that needs to be signed or presented and approved. The apps that you can now use on phones and tablets in particular are enabling those things to happen that much quicker. And that's got real business implications, whether or not you're dealing with customers or trying to get a sales bid approved or a proposal out to somebody, or even just managing internal administration around timesheets approvals or payroll approvals. Those are the kind of real business value changes that when I can suddenly do it a lot quicker and easier on my device whenever I want to, that makes a real difference.
Yeah, so there are obviously a wide variety of technologies that are out there. I mean, Toshiba has it, Apple has it, Microsoft has it. I mean, and there are new ones that are coming out constantly. They all have their own ecosystem. They all present their own benefits and their own challenges. From a business perspective, how do you walk through and find out which one is going to be right for you?
I think that's really dependent on what you're trying to do with it. And I mean, businesses are so various in terms of what they need to do that it is a real decision. The cost driver is very substantial as well. Depending on your preferences, you will have tablets as an end device and still have to have a large sort of computing device or a laptop. If you're doing very heavy, work that actually requires a bit more power to it, you're going to lean towards a heavier device that can actually run more memory, more RAM, more capabilities. For generally people who deal in documents and web browser types of activities, though, that's where we're starting to see tablets and the apps that you can use on tablets take over as a preferred device. So it does depend on the type of activity. Heavier users versus lightweight knowledge workers.
Right. So if you are doing some massive database work or doing some graphic design work that requires a lot of processing power, there's still the options that are available.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked about before how do you make the decision to have it as a supplement or have it as a replacement? And for your perspective, when is that breakwater? When do you make the decision to go one way or the other?
I think probably for the first time in the last 6 months, we're starting to see devices come out, and Surface is a great example of that, which is generally giving businesses a real alternative to replace laptops in the traditional computing sense. We're actively using them in Telstra, and we're trialing them as alternatives to our standard laptops that we give out to our staff and contractors. And in particular, people with high-end mobility needs. I'm a great example. I work very flexibly. I work from home. I don't tell my boss. I'll quite often dial into meetings from a cafe because I really like my long blacks while I have meetings. But we also have a very huge workforce who need to work out in the field while constantly on customer premises. And that ability to have a laptop that not only has the apps that I need, but can actually still access all of my business systems, which are designed for a Windows world predominantly still, that is one of the key pinnacle points now that's actually changing the landscape internally for us. Yeah,
one of the things too, and the folks at home can see this up on their screen, is battery life. And I know that's like the first thing that anybody talks about when a new device comes out. Are we getting better in battery life? And obviously, as we've got these that are going to require a lot more computing power, they're going to eat up a lot more battery. Are they good enough to go all day?
I think we're at the point where they're starting to become. I think if you're running really heavy processing capability, so I use my Surface and it pretty much lasts me the whole day. Won't last quite as long as my iPad, but I do less on my iPad. I'm running quite heavy document processes and I do a lot of creation of content on this device that I don't do on other devices. And it does stretch out, but you do need to definitely keep an eye on the battery charge.
I actually want to bring in Ian Walker into this conversation. Ian, you have, you're obviously out in the field, and a lot of the people who are with your business are at fairly remote locations. In terms of battery, how have you experienced things?
Thanks, Justin. Battery life for us has been reasonable because our staff are traditionally using iPads, so deployed, as you say, across Australia. to often remote locations, but battery life hasn't been an issue because it's been used, I guess, in a way that's not requiring a lot of capacity. It's really using particular apps, so like the Canvas app, for example, to share information at the point of on the ground back to a central location via the app. So our computing power hasn't been large, so to speak.
Yeah. Excellent. That's great. Thank you. I have a question come in from the audience, and I do encourage you at home to, or in the office, sorry, it's an old habit, you in the office to submit us questions, or if you're not in the office, if you're in a cafe enjoying us, well, welcome. But I had a question come in from Rohit, which is, how do you balance out security and productivity? Because I know data sovereignty is a massive issue, especially when we're talking about cloud-based apps, and you could have some sensitive documents you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be one of the, I think, big challenge for a lot of companies. I think the great thing about it, though, is you've got to recognize in the world of mobiles and apps, it's happening anyway. So people will work around your formal processes to have more convenience and to be able to work in a more productive way. So a large proportion of what we're doing, obviously, you have to have strong guidelines around data sovereignty and what that means to you as a company. And that depends on who you're dealing with and the type of information and your customers. But a lot of the cloud services now are starting to be built at such a high degree of conscious security that in some ways they're becoming more secure than actual on-premise environments for traditional businesses. This is the way the industry is heading. You know, every single company that's investing in large-scale cloud storage is increasing the security parameters, the ability to find and access information, and this is becoming the normal way of working. So a huge part of our strategy internally is we want to enable formal ways to do the things that people will do anyway, and have those great experiences. But we do very much review and do the right sort of level of testing around the security controls that are in place.
That's good. Yeah. Excellent. So we'll dig into some more of the apps later that can be supported by this, particularly dealing with like web conferencing and things, because I know that's a great way for you in terms of business to talk with a variety of people no matter where they are. So we'll get into that in a moment. First, a question has popped up for you in the audience, which is, how important is a physical keyboard to you? And it may seem like a left turn, but frankly, I was looking at both of the Surface and the Surface Pro 3 here in front of me, and they have beautiful keyboards, and I want one. But let me ask you, will you only work on a physical keyboard? Do you prefer a physical keyboard but don't mind tapping? Do you not mind touchscreen typing, but physical keyboard's okay? Or you prefer to type on a touchscreen? So while those results populate, one of the things that I think is really important for people to know is, how do you get the data on there? Brent, you've been playing with the Surface 3 here for a while. Yep. How do you like the keyboard?
I think it's actually great. It's I'm very ubiquitous. I don't mind touch, but when it comes down to really having to create heavy documents and really rapid typing and have a degree of accuracy around it, if you're a touch typer, which a lot of people are these days, that physical keyboard to me makes a big difference. And the Surface device in particular does a great job of being able to enable the positioning to really utilize it in small spaces as well as on a more traditional desk. Yeah. And the fact I can plug it in and have a full sort of docking setup with screens and keyboards and mouse when I get to my formal desk makes it a really great portable device.
Excellent. So our results are not surprising. 71.2% prefer having a physical keyboard, and I think that's normal. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon either. There's a very nice factor to having that physical keyboard. But about 25.8% don't mind the touchscreen typing, so we'll do it if if that's the only option available to them. And the reason we ask that, obviously, is because one of the features of the Surface and the Surface Pro 3 is that physical keyboard. I'm going to bring Tina into the conversation now. And let's talk about the tablet that can replace your laptop. Tina, first of all, thank you. Second of all, tell me about the decision mindset that goes on here for people between laptop and tablet, the device dilemma.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And just carrying on with what Brent was talking about is, folks, again, we've seen a convergence over the last number of years of folks and how they work and how the ways that they want to work. People aren't working always in the traditional workplace setting. You could be at a cafe, you could be a mobile worker on the road, you could be a kiosk worker, but there's many, many different scenarios. And the rise of tablets and the rise of the smaller devices, thinner, lighter, much more portable, has been growing over the past number of years. But at the same time, what we find and what people have found is their need for being productive, and whatever productive means for them. Right. And that's a really big, and when we talk about form factors and all the wonderful options today, helping people get more stuff done really has been the vision all along of the Surface device. And so when Surface started off 3 years ago, here in Australia, we launched the Pro device last August. And again, the vision for Surface has been helping people be more productive, but more productive in the way that they want to be.
Yeah.
And so again, what we found is the Surface device and the vision of the Surface device is people don't have to choose anymore. They don't have to choose having a tablet or having a laptop, and that this device can actually satisfy both needs. And both needs both at the same time, or both is when an individual, again, if they're in a tablet mode or really in that laptop type of way, be more productive mode.
Yeah, so let's talk about the family of devices and some of the things you can do on it, because as I mentioned before, without the ability to do things, it's just a nice toy.
Right, and again, I think that's what's so important about the Surface devices, and we've got two sitting here. This is the Pro 3 device, and then we have the new Surface 3 device. Both devices, again, Surface Pro 3, our statement with this device is the tablet that can replace your laptop. And with the Surface 3 device, it's the tablet that can work like a laptop. A little bit of different use case and scenarios here. Both, again, help you be more productive. Different parts, different use cases. If I'm more of a mobile worker and I'm not having to have heavy productivity usage, the Surface 3 device can be a great device for me. The beauty of the Pro 3 device is it runs the Core i processors. You have an option and choice from an i3 to an i5 to an i7. So depending upon, again, you talked a little bit about, what am I working on? If I'm doing Photoshop, if I'm doing big BI work, so big sets of data that I'm having to crunch. Again, the i7 is a great device. In fact, our CFO uses the i7.
Pretend I'm dumb, which I know is a stretch, but what's the difference between the i3, i5, i7, just in layman's terms?
So again, it's processing power. So it's really about how much information that you're really working with at any one given time. How many apps you're running, how many programs that you have open and that you're running. The higher processor allows you to have more applications open, running at the same time with great speed.
That's great. The one other thing I see as you're waving it around here is the pen. So explain to me the benefits of a stylus. So
this for us, we've always called a pen, and it's really important to us that we do call this a Surface Pen. What we found over our research is almost 60% of people spend, even today with all the computers, all of our tablets, all of our phones, at least 3 hours a day writing by hand in the workplace. And so that part of how one is productive and how one gets work done for them, we believe that the pen was really important, and not just a stylus. So this is a very unique pen. It's got 256 points of pressure. It's very thin. There is almost no latency when you're writing, and I know
which is essential.
It's really essential. Yeah. So it feels as though that ink is flowing from this pen. And we find that people, and what's exciting about working on a Surface device is that pen experience. We have palm block, so again, put your hand in your palm right down on the screen, and you're writing away.
Yeah, it's definitely, I must say from my experience over the last month, it's definitely one of the more natural writing experiences that I've actually had, which is been one of the challenges in a lot of the tablets.
And we're seeing folks in business, consumers, folks in business. I watch people, my colleagues that I work with, who when they're using OneNote, they're typing away, they're embedding videos, they're notating along all at the same time. And it just helps people, again, be more productive in the way that they want to.
Yeah, so one of the problems that people have had to this point with tablets is that they have to do a lot of workaround things to get the stuff done that they want to. Right. If I want to upload a video, I have to go through several steps. The version of Windows that's running on here, does that allow for me to do basically the same thing I would do on a laptop?
Absolutely. There is the Surface Pro 3 device functions as a laptop. The beauty of the device, if I take off my keyboard, I have a tablet. I have a tablet that I can write, and so it feels like I've got my pen, my pen and paper, and I'm writing on it, or it's functioning to me as a tablet. Very, very thin, very light. But again, when we talk about, you asked me earlier, so why is this a laptop replacement? So when you think about what it means to be a laptop, and it has to be powerful. So then again, we've got the Core i processors. It runs Windows and Office, so all the basic all the productivity tools you need are running on the device. It's thin, it's light, it's mobile. You can use a pen with it, and then you've got a great keyboard experience.
So one of the things that we see people using, perhaps in restaurants, they're actually using it to take orders and to to work with people. We've talked about Ian's example of people out in the field. How are people actually using this, not just in an office environment? Because I think it's easy to imagine it in an office, but how are people using the Surface?
And I think that's a great question. It's really important because you've got two people here sitting on the couch who are we're both each using our Surface in different ways. We've got different work styles, we've got different needs. We see people today, not just in a work setting, in an office setting, we're seeing it in retail, we're seeing it in health. We're seeing it in banks, on the front end consumer interface in banks. It's across the board, whether you're a small business, so forget, whether you're an independent entrepreneur, all the way to a 5-person company, all the way up to a multi-thousand-unit organization.
What kind of apps are available for businesses to get up and off the ground immediately? I mean, we talked briefly about Canvas, but and we'll get into the details there. But
Absolutely.
For a variety of businesses, so that again, we just don't pick up a toy.
Correct. So first and foremost, I do have to speak about the Microsoft suite of products. So when you think about the Office and the suite of Office products and Windows, both from a desktop and a mobile version, and then we've got hundreds of thousands of apps in our App Store, and we again, all of our partners, all of the apps that you have out there will run on the Windows platform. And then with the Windows 10 launch coming shortly, again, that opens up a whole nother world of compatibility across.
So I had a question come in from Glenn in the audience, which is, and getting to that, which is, when can we see Windows 10, and when is the Surface 4?
Well, let's start with Windows 10. Windows 10 definitely is launching again, as we said, end of July. So that's a very exciting time for all of us. And then, Surface continually will come out with new products. I think the beauty of the Surface line is, again, iterations on, current versions. So, again, we want to make sure people are somewhat future-proofed and not, I'm not looking at obsolescence. And I think the other exciting part of it is all Surface devices today are upgradable to Windows 10. So if you're on Windows 8.1,
so the one thing I want to mention about this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with that, is we need to have something that's going to last, because nobody wants to look at this immediately and get out.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to the value proposition and why, and the whole value of the Surface device is. It truly is, again, we are here to help people be more productive. Again, if we're talking about shifting form factors rapidly, that's not going to be helpful in any business scenario. So
yeah, that's good. So there's a lot of information that people can download right now from the resources tab on their on the screen there for a copy of the presentation. We'll get into a lot of the details about the Microsoft Surface Pro 3 as a laptop replacement. We've talked about the one thing we actually didn't talk about, and if you could demo very quickly for us, is the kickstand.
Oh, absolutely. The kickstand. So one of the things, since this device has been launched, what's resonated incredibly well, I do want to say, with all the research we've done, is the fact that this device, both the Surface 3 and the Pro 3, absolutely can be, what resonates very well is both a laptop and a tablet. One of the unique features that's resonated incredibly well has been the kickstand. So this unique feature, so when this device, again, whether one of the things we coined way back last year was lapability, and I watched you earlier working it on your lap. We all have different lengths, and so the ability for me to be able to work on my lap, to take this keyboard that's got this unique magnetic strip, and again to have that click into the screen and the bezel there. I'll take my pen off. Then allows me to work at any position. One of the interesting things we found is in meetings, you'll often be in a meeting and everybody's on their laptop or their tablet. It's up here and everybody's typing away, and the first thing you may think is, oh, they're doing their email and they're on Facebook. Beautiful thing about this is in meetings, when I can again go take it down all the way into the full Surface Lean, I can work away, and you can see exactly what I'm doing, and we can still have that great interaction. So whether you're a student in a school, whether we're in a meeting in our workplace, just having those different variances and being on a plane, and when that seat in front of you is coming back.
There are a lot of different ecosystems, and thank you very much for taking us through that. And we're, of course, not just going to talk about Windows as an ecosystem, because it's not the only one that's out there.
No.
So, Brent, I want to turn to you briefly and talk about the different ecosystems that are out there. I mean, I'm an Apple guy at home just because that's what I have, and I enjoy it quite a bit. And I know people are I'm vendor agnostic. Frankly, if something better came out tomorrow, I'm all over it.
No loyalty, Justin.
I have no loyalty. I will jump ship very quickly. But there are options out there. So what do you take through to get the right decision for an ecosystem for you? Is it Apple? Is it Android? If it's Microsoft, whatever.
Well, I think one of the great things that's happening now is in this digital world that we're living in is it is all about the apps. So, to a certain extent, people have a lot of hardware preferences. Apple diehards versus Android diehards versus Windows diehards. They're out there, and people have a very strong personal style as to what device they want to use. So, the great thing now is most of the apps and the really successful ones are happening across every single device spectrum. Microsoft in the last couple of years, Office 365 is now targeting certain capabilities Apple first, as an example, which I think 2 years ago would have been sacrilegious in the company.
Very much so.
So that is brilliant. And what that does is it does provide options. So I think when you bring it back to the human factor, a huge part of being successful for businesses is actually enabling employees with some choice. And that choice might be on the phone, not necessarily on the work device, because there is a cost associated with these things. But when we do look at the phone through the tablet, through the laptop options, really there's different sort of aspects of how you manage those and how you secure them. And some environments are more complicated than others. Android's probably one of the ones that's got some great capabilities, but there's so much variability that it does make it a little bit harder for companies to secure and deploy even basic things like email in a very comfortable way. The Windows world for businesses is a lot more known, and the fact that we've now got devices that I can have a device, not necessarily my laptop and a Windows tablet and another device. I think that will start seeing quite a big growth area in the Microsoft sphere of Windows. In Windows 10, when we start hitting apps that can be built once and deployed to all different device factors in the Windows ecosystem, I think we'll also start seeing things growing quite substantially. And that's not restricted to, not from the Xbox either, I hope.
Right.
There's
Well,
some great interesting capabilities coming through there.
There's a lot of talk about the App Store and the apps that are available. I know Android is renowned as being much more open. You can get an app that can do everything, but there's also such a flood of them. Apple is very restricted in their ecosystem, so only things that have been polished can get through. And Tina, maybe this is for you, is how do I get something for my business, maybe that's house-made, that we get it up on the App Store so we can get to work using it?
Absolutely. So again, Microsoft and Microsoft Store, the ease now with which developers can get their apps up onto the store and get it quickly recognized and quickly out there, it's never been easier.
That's good.
So.
Excellent. And I know that's one of the concerns that people have. So Glenn had a comment in here. He said he has 45 Surfaces in his environment. Most of those are with the Salesforce. They enabled them to have only 2 devices, which is their Surface and their phone, which I think is excellent. And that's going to keep you mobile when you're out in the field, which is where you should be. Excellent. The one thing they say, though, is they have in-house developed Windows apps, and that's a big selling point for them.
Yeah, I think that's where, from a business perspective, if you're building your internal apps, you do have to think about the cost of deploying that across multiple different device types and different operating system types. And Windows has got a bulk of business there from the old laptop sort of world. And then on the other side, when you're actually buying software as a service, which is obviously a massive industry and growing in terms of enterprise capabilities and business capabilities, that's where I think we're becoming more device ubiquitous. And as I said, the big players are doing it on Apple, they're doing it on Android, and they're doing it on Microsoft. And that's really opening up a lot of great options for people.
Yeah. Now there's the bring your own device strategy, which is it's good for a mid to small business that want their staff to have good technology, but can't necessarily supply them with it, so they can support somebody bringing in their own device. Are these apps that are available cross-platform? Do they play well together? So does my Canvas app on an iPhone play well with the Canvas app on the Surface Pro 3?
Yeah, I mean, I generally think they do. You've got to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So, the big players out there, Office 365, Google, they're pretty much device ubiquitous in that sense. They will work on everything. When you get to your smaller niche players, generally you will see people that do target an iOS or an Android first. And that's something to be conscious of when you're looking at what your business wants to actually use. But for the most part, the amount of capability that is out there for all the devices, there's very little you can't do in a business.
And I think it's really important today. You mentioned BYOD. It's prevalent. Folks want the device. The device that they work on is very important. And what's critical then for the IT departments and is, again, for the technology group, is how to manage across the platform. So, so security, your data security, because people are out. They will use the device of their choice. And it's just, again, that whole ability to manage across multiple devices, so not just form factor, but platform, becomes very critical.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where people only want one device in their life. They don't want a home laptop, they don't want a home tablet, they don't want a work laptop and a work tablet, they want one thing, which I think that's extremely important.
It is very important, and I think that's, again, when you think about tablets and the use of tablets, people have gone from the factor that it's mobile, thin, and light is really important. But when it comes time to get work done, you've often heard people say, okay, now I have to go get my laptop out. Yes. And so I think that's where, and again, I'll speak specifically of Surface, and that's where this device comes in and is able to make that bridge. And so it can be a tablet when you need it to be a tablet, and it can be a laptop when you want to be a laptop. So the one thing we say about the Surface 3 device is it's the tablet that when you want to get work done, you don't have to put it down. Right? And so I think that becomes really important to folks, that again, they don't have to make that choice and decision, and it's seamless across their, their productivity across their life is their choice.
Yeah. So we had a question come in from Patrick, and before I get to that, I want to pose a question to you in the audience, which is about your workforce, and that'll shape how we go forward here. Do you have an office-based workforce, a field-based workforce? Would you describe your workforce as mobile within a single space, say, for example, healthcare, so a nurse going from room to room, or some other type of workforce? So we'll delve into those questions in just a moment. But first, Patrick said, if I join the device to a domain and Windows updates are managed by the WSUS server, how can I ensure the device security is up to date once the machine will be on and off the network, obviously quite often? So how do you keep these things secure?
I guess what we do internally in Telstra is probably the viewpoint I can put in.
Please.
We are, we've implemented a really strong bring your own device as well as corporate device strategy, particularly around iOS and Android and Windows phones. That's in play, and we've got roughly 17,000 devices and about 20,000 users using that, of which almost half are actually personal devices. So that's pretty great. When we head into the Windows world, we're dealing with the the legacy sort of constraint of we have to control everything, and we build it and we control it, and we don't allow a lot of updates off the internet and things. However, the world is changing, and that's going to be something that we are struggling with. So we are looking at mobile device management techniques, so using products like AirWatch and Windows Intune.
It yells at me
so
often.
help it give us that lightweight sort of control around. You do have a virus control point. We do have the ability to wipe your device if it's compromised and report and lost or stolen, and we can track it and those sorts of things. Where we have got a lot of work to do internally, given we've got 80,000 people working between staff, contractors, partners, it's quite a vast workforce that we have to manage. We've got a lot of systems internally that actually need that really heavy managed environment. So what we're doing is we're more progressively with our mobile workers and our office workers who really do deal in browsers and documents for the predominant part of their jobs. That's where we're starting to move them into a lighter managed environment, and we're treating the Windows devices almost the same as we do an iPad, for example. Lightly controlled, secure enough, with the right sort of tools in place around mobile device management and access controls, as well as app deployment control through Windows App Store, through Apple App Store, through Google Play, as well as our internal focused app stores, so we can actually deploy our internal business applications. And we've built an HR app for timesheets and leave approvals and those sorts of things internally. We're starting to deploy apps like Canvas, Box, OneDrive, OneNote internally, and we're deploying that through our internal ecosystems, so that our staff know what is allowed to be used and is security approved and controlled to not compromise the company.
Yeah, excellent. So let's take a look at the results here. 54.5% say their workforce is office-based, and it's a split then between field, mobile, and some other style of workforce. So that's good to know. So let's bring in now Ian Walker. He is the Director of Conservation for Conservation Volunteers. And Ian, first of all, why don't you tell me a little bit about your organization and what you do?
Yes, thank you. Conservation Volunteers is an organisation that operates across Australia and New Zealand, and we're fundamentally about connecting people with the natural environment and delivering on-ground work to protect that natural environment. And we use a volunteer group of people to do that across multiple projects. Our team leaders are qualified in environmental management, safety management systems, and general managing a team. So those team leaders lead a group of volunteers to plant trees, to look after threatened species, to educate communities, to provide safety briefings. That's the sort of work we do. And I guess in terms of the context today, we've deployed tablets to our team leaders across the country. So using those tablets, our team leaders have the ability to stay connected to us as an organisation and also manage the integrity of data flowing from the field to the organisation back and forth. And that's become a particularly powerful tool to enable fast, efficient collection of information and sharing of information.
Yeah. So what were you replacing? Was it paper processes?
Fundamentally paper, yes. So clearly a much simpler system, it reduces waste, a better footprint. Now, as a conservation-based organisation, it's a far better footprint to be using Canvas as an example to collect and distribute information. So it's really been quite powerful for us to, I guess, shift our workforce to using this type of technology. It also enables us to capture images and share video links and those sorts of pieces of information quickly. So I think it's really revolutionised how quickly and efficiently we can share information. I think probably the other bit of that is around data management. Because of our teams are dispersed across the country, we can request our staff to provide particular information. Using the Canvas app, we can ensure some data integrity there, and we can also ensure that our staff are, I guess, capturing the right information. So that might be everything from human resource type information through to safety briefings, through to vehicle incidents or risk-related issues, through to the more technical things, at least from our technical side, what species of animal or what species of plant is that, and what's the best method to control that weed. So we're starting to see Canvas and this technology used in a whole range of different functions across the organisation, greatly enhancing our speed, capability, and reducing duplication.
That's excellent. Well, you skipped a step that I think many people go through, which is the step from paper to computer to tablet. What was the inspiration? I mean, you mentioned the environmental footprint, but what was your inspiration for going tablet?
The tablet just offered us far greater flexibility. I guess like most of society, we have a degree of people with high levels of technical competencies in computers and some that are not. And the tablet interface was much simpler in a field work environment for people to use. It was a size that people could view it, and we're not talking about entering lots of data, so it's not necessary for a keyboard, although I've just heard the virtues of a keyboard. In our circumstances, it wasn't something that was critical. So it was a step into ease of sharing information and the app technology really being the tool that enabled us to do that.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about Canvas. What is, how are you using it, and what was the decision to go with Canvas?
We're using Canvas as a tool for...
Oh, I think, did we lose Ian? Okay, so we'll have to dial you back in. Apologies about that, Ian. Just when we were getting into the good part, too. So actually, let's talk a little bit about Canvas, because it's, to me, an app that seems obvious. It's one like DocuSign. It's like, why didn't I think of this 5 years ago, and why am I not a millionaire now? So, Brent, talk to me about what is Canvas?
Yeah, well, Canvas is there's a suite of apps that's a large amount of which Telstra actually resells. Canvas is one of those tools that allows you to do basic, what I will call forms and process automation. So you can capture different types of data very easy. You don't have to be an IT literate person to be able to create a survey or a data entry form. It could be around a sales prospect, an issue a customer have. It could be an order. It could be, you name it. You can actually enter information. It can be text-based. It can be graphical-based. It can be for photographs or picture-based.
Right, which is what he was mentioning about.
Which is what he was mentioning.
Is it poisonous? Is it going to kill me?
Exactly
is it going to spread?
Right, exactly right. You can configure drop-down lists, so you can actually have some structured data that you can capture that puts it back into a database sitting in the cloud.
Oh.
So the fantastic thing about it is, all of a sudden something that 10 years ago would have charged you with an IT team and a bunch of developers and a whole project to run, a business person can suddenly self-create in the matter of minutes. They just have to have a think about what their business process is and what they're trying to do. And it's got some process automation, so you can trigger some steps of which that data may need to be approved or get sent an email to somebody as a notification from that. So it's a great flexible capability, and what a fantastic use case actually in the conservationist industry to get rid of paper as part of that process. We're using it in our field force as well, so our for those people who will see Telstra trucks driving around the country, we've got a few thousand people there who are in pits fixing cables, plugging in your cable connection at home for Foxtel. We're using it in that workforce as well to do capture around certain jobs information or customer requests. Very lightweight, very easy way to get real business value, where the device is the access point and a great little touch-based screen, so I do minimal data entry.
Well, and it streamlines a lot of these reports that are coming in, because you've got people, end users, that are really concerned about and they're waiting for information about a status of an update, for a Telstra example. Now we don't have to wait for that piece of paper to be filed, hope that everything that was on there is correct, and all of that. It can really speed up that, so we can get a call probably the same day.
Absolutely. If you think about the business world that we're in, hopefully where a lot of our audience is at, from a Surface device to an iPad to an Android phone to a tablet, you might be running video meetings on Link or on WebEx. You can have your documents accessible in Box or in OneDrive and Office 365. DocuSign will let you do digital signatures and automation of documents. The world of collaboration and the ability to create business processes through these software as a service capabilities is just amazing. There's so little that you can't do now to actually automate your business and very rapidly start up your business. Without having to have too much technical knowledge to be able to do it as well.
I just want to ask a question of you in the audience, which is, do you use Microsoft Office 365? Yes in the office, yes at home, yes in both, or no, you use a previous version of Office, which is where I'm at, or you use a different productivity suite altogether. I think one of the issues that people have is they don't see necessarily a benefit immediately if you're only a one-device user. And I just have it on my home laptop, and that's what I type on, and it's great, and I write my novel, and it's going to be terrible. But so what are the reasons for upgrading? And I guess this is perhaps a question over to you, Tina, which is what are these cloud-based aspects that we're seeing now?
So it was a great example when talking about collaboration. Today, people are collaborating more than ever. And no one is all, and it's rare I have a meeting today where every attendee from that meeting is sitting in the office. So we've always got to dial in. Folks are both across the country and sometimes actually somewhere across the globe. So collaboration is really important, in real-time collaboration. So when you take a look at we talked about Box, we talked about Canvas, we talked about Office 365, how, in OneDrive you're storing all your documents in the cloud and whatnot. But the ability, whether if I'm in the cafe having my long black, and the ability to be, on Skype with the video, with my pen, we can actually work work in documents at the same time. I can have my notes, we can be in OneNote, and I can have everybody in that meeting actually in OneNote together, annotating that document document and page and taking notes or building. Actually, we've done business plans where everybody's collaborating at once. So I think having that ability to collaborate key, having that ability to be anywhere and at any time and any device, be able to do that becomes, and then securely becomes, really a core factor today of how people need to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I think a big component for me as well to complement that is also just the IT management side of it.
Yes.
You are dealing with companies that are investing a lot more than your company will to think about how these products need to develop, and the joys of subscribing to a cloud-based service is you will get the value of that investment in new features and functionality, and you don't actually have to do that much. Once you've set it up and you're working, you can actually just adopt the new capabilities without increasing your cost base or having a very big IT department to be able to do that.
Yeah. So good news, we have Ian Walker back from Conservation Volunteers in Melbourne. Apologies for the disconnection, but Ian, you were right in the middle of telling us about your decision to go with Canvas. I'd also like to find out what are your successes with it? I mean, has it panned out the way that you hoped it would?
Yeah, sure. Look, a bit hard to tell where we got to in the conversation, but our application of Canvas has really been around managing quality control of data in and data out. We've been able to deploy Canvas across our 200 or so staff who are Australia-wide. That deployment has meant that we can share information easily and quickly with our staff and use it for collecting information back from the field, from everything from HR timesheets to financials to risk audits to...
My goodness, we've lost him again. But there are a lot of different things, it sounds like, that are going on in there. And one of the questions I was going to have to follow up actually comes from Lindsay, which is about connectivity with the devices. In particular, I mean, the Telstra network is fantastic and it's very well spread out. But some of the places that conservation volunteers are going are not places that are designed to be connected to mobile networks. What are the options for connecting like this?
Well, I think if you're going to be in a business environment that actually does have limited connection capabilities, it's really around the apps need to be designed for offline use and capability. And again, you're seeing that built a lot more into these apps as a whole. To be able to synchronize your documents offline. Canvas, I believe, and somebody needs to check the fact, I believe you can capture offline and then submit when you're actually reconnected.
Yes, I believe so as well.
So those sorts of capabilities are things that you just need to consider into the design of your system and the actual apps that you choose to deploy depending on your business need.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've found that I've really enjoyed with, I have the iPad Air 2 and I have a Telstra SIM in it. I had a little issue where I decided to download the movie Boyhood 7 times on my 4G connection. So that $2 movie rental cost me $250. Fortunately, they helped out. They understood that there was a sudden increase there. But that connection is amazing. I can be on the train. I can be connected. I can check my email on a well-sized device. So what do you see that that connectivity there is an essential part of these devices?
Absolutely. I think a non-connected device in this day and age is a pretty piece of hardware and very little else at this stage. I think everything that we're doing is dealing with data and information and the data flow and the collection of data across the globe. When we talk about the concept of the Internet of Things, everything's got a SIM card in it at this day and age. Your car, your pacemaker, your home will start having connected devices more. So having a laptop device or a tablet device that doesn't fundamentally enable you to have great downloads and great access speeds is going to be very limiting in what you can do. And it is one of the watch points as well when you're actually choosing your systems and your apps, is to make sure, obviously, the plans and the data sizes around that need to be addressed. And it's one of the big things that Telstra does look at is, as new Netflix has come out, that inspired a different sort of changes to the plans around our broadband home plans. And similarly on the mobile space, I expect that the telcos as a whole will start being more creative, recognizing the increase in data utilization that everybody has. And the number of SIM cards per person has increased significantly. 5 years ago I had one. Actually I won't tell you how many I've got, it's embarrassing. I have more than 3 though. And a lot of people have 2 or 3 actual connected devices in their lives in this day and age.
Yeah, excellent. So we have Ian back, and I'm hoping the connection remains stable. But Ian, thank you very much. One of the we got cut off as you were talking about some of the things that you can do, and actually Brent had the question because your team goes out very far into very remote areas. Are you able to capture data and then submit it when you're connected again?
Fundamentally, yes. So we can either do it directly while we're online, and I guess one of the beauties of working with Telstra is their, I guess, ability across most of Australia. But where that doesn't work, yes, we can store that information and download it at a subsequent point in time. So it's very efficient from that perspective.
Yeah, so what about the communication aspect? Because you've got a big team, they're scattered all over the country, and I see there's also conservation volunteers in New Zealand as well. So you want these people to be in touch and talking about what they see and sharing this information. What kind of communications suites do you use?
It's probably the step just that we need to take as an organisation. We've now got the platform that enables us to be connected with each other and start to use digital imagery or footage to actually show people what we do. And that's the next step for us organisationally, is to make that information available on the web so that people can visually see and be connected with the particular environment or the eastern barred bandicoot or whatever piece of work we're doing without actually having to be in the field. So that's our next step as an organisation, is to really take us into that space.
Yeah, so I want you to be honest with me now. Is this working out as well as you had hoped? I actually hope if it's a negative experience, then you'll lie a little bit. But no, tell me, is this working out the way that you hoped it would?
Like all technology, including today's conference, there are always a few hitches. And certainly our HR space, it's been a challenge getting the systems to talk with one another, but we've seen that come into play now, and the efficiency gains are staggering. Now, we're talking about a 50% increase in our efficiency around how we manage HR processes as new volunteers or employees come in and out of the organisation. So, of course, they're teasing new technology. How do I use this app, this iPad? And remember, we've got people in our workforce that are of a whole diverse backgrounds whose first instinct might be to throw the iPad at the pest animal as opposed to use it to collect the data. So we've got different skills, but overall, I think we're pretty pleased. It's working, it's functioning, and our efficiency, effectiveness have increased. Probably the biggest thing for us is, and from my perspective, is our data integrity. The usual saying, poor or crap data in, crap data out. We've been able to minimise that issue and actually ask and make sure that the same data is collected no matter where anyone is, so that we can produce and tell the story in a consistent way right across Australia, across New Zealand, and in other locations where we work.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating when you talk about the productivity gains, because it's one thing to say that businesses expect to see productivity gains. It's another entirely to actually hear about those productivity gains, as well as the standardization. I think that's extremely important, because you come with people, the English may not be the first language. They still want to volunteer. They still have a passion for the environment. So let's give them the tool that helps them do the job very quick and easily. So that's excellent. I do want to ask you, I guess, one last thing, which is if people want to get involved with conservation volunteers, learn more about you and what you're doing, what's the best way to do that?
Very simple. You can go onto our website or simply type Conservation Volunteers. That'll take you through to our website, and you can join a project anywhere in the country simply by registering online or by contacting our office via the phone. So you've got multiple touch points for people to enter, and we're always looking for more volunteers or more partners to support the delivery of conservation work right across the country and New Zealand.
That's excellent. So again, conservationvolunteers.com.au is the website, or conservationvolunteers.co.nz or NZ to find them in New Zealand. So Ian, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes and joining us here. If you've got more observations, I'd encourage you to share them. But I want to turn a bit to the communication aspect. And one of the things you'll see on our screen here is about WebEx, but also recently launched with Skype for Business. There are a variety of communications technologies. Have you found, maybe Brent or Ian, as you've been using these tools, are you more likely to talk with someone using like a video conference?
So my personal experience, one of the big things we've been driving the last 12 months is increasing the quality of interactions, the quality of meetings. So everything is about video and content. If it's very unusual for me in this day and age to actually get involved in a meeting or an online voice only experience. And generally, you know, we have a combination of people in high-end sort of video rooms, as well as just on my Surface device, as well as on my iPad when I'm at home. So we have a very intense focus around the quality of interactions and being able to see people and build relationships better, because it's not always easy to be in the same physical location in this day and age. So I would say we've increased somewhere close to 600% in terms of the internal use of video calls over the last 12 months in Telstra alone.
How do you find the quality?
The quality, well, you've always got a connection sort of differentiation there. Ironically, I have better reception of high-definition video meetings on 2 bars of 4G at home than I do on my ADSL connection, which is a great resounding tick for Telstra's mobile network there. But no, I mean, the quality, there's 2 factors. One will be the actual service that you're using, you know, and Skype's a great quality service, WebEx is a great quality service. For your business, obviously Telstra has a number of products that we actually sell there, from Tipid to our Cisco TCCP stack, as well as Skype for Business now and Link in the current sort of status. In this day and age, there's very, very high quality, very good video experiences. The only time where I think businesses will struggle is when they don't have a good network connection, or when they're using devices that aren't actually, if you've got a 5-year-old laptop trying to run a modern piece of software, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, so we just have about 5 minutes left, and Ian, I want to turn this one to you because you've been using them, you've been employing out in the field. What's your biggest takeaway in terms of tablet usage in business?
I guess our biggest takeaway would be around the data integrity and consistent data collection, and the ease of sharing that information back and forth across, you know, many thousands of kilometres and different locations, different access points. So I think that's been our fundamental benefit and learning from this process. To pick up your conferencing and video conferencing space, Justin, we've deployed BlueJeans across our organisation as the platform we're using, and it's been very successful for the same reasons. It's enabled us to easily communicate. We don't have to travel that great distances. Our staff can be in the room, you know, many thousands of kilometres away, yet feel connected and interacting with each other in a much more, I guess, conventional way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I love video conferencing. I mean, I can call Brent and we have the video conference, and it's like we know each other, so that when we actually see each other and he shows up in the same room randomly, it's just, there's no time loss there. It's just, you know, it's the person you expected to see. Tina, what are the reasons we should go with, in 1 minute or less, the reasons we should go with the Microsoft Surface Pro 3?
So I think, again, the tablet that can replace your laptop, or the tablet that can work like a laptop. I think, again, the ability to be able to satisfy the needs of folks to be more productive anytime, anywhere, in the way they want. It's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And Brent, you've been playing with all the toys. Is this the way to go? Is tablets the way to go, or should we wait for the next best thing?
I think there will always be a next best thing. Right now, the best thing is going to be the actual mobile device that lets you do your job the best. And we're certainly heading into a great time where the devices are just getting better and better, and the Surface device is a great example of that.
Do you see there being any plateau where the devices just can't get any better?
I see the rate of technology innovation just increasing. You know, we're looking at devices from Apple Watch to HoloLens to I was mentioning earlier, there's actually a hoverboard that's been created for those Back to the Future technology is just going to keep impressing us.
Yeah.
I think the sci-fi of old is going to be not as good as what we're going to see